You say they burned note on your house? Shoji asked Jonathan in his thick Japanese accent, his voice so belligerently loud that it can be heard by everyone in the bar. You don't let them get away with this! Then Shoji takes a swig from a can of hams. Shoji is a 500-pound Asian man who is the closest thing Jonathan has to a best friend, even though Jonathan can't understand him half the time. He's also the only person over the age of 10 who doesn't think Jonathan is a loser for living in a house of Legos. This is because Shoji knows what it feels like to be considered a loser by everyone close to him. Like Jonathan and his Legos, Shoji has a passion that his family never approved of. Shoji has the desire to become a professional sumo wrestler, but nobody has ever taken his dream seriously. They all think he's an alcoholic loser. They think he should sober up, lose all the weight, go back to school, and get a real job. But Shoji refuses to abandon his dream. He promises that one day he will become Yokozuna, the grand champion of all sumos. It's probably nothing, Jonathan says, sitting 2 seats away from Shoji to accommodate his friend's massive amount of excess weight. Just somebody messing with me. You want me to go down there and teach punks a lesson? Then he raises his fists over his head and flexes his flabby muscles. Show them my powerful sumo skills! Jonathan shakes his head. No, she's probably harmless. She? Shoji lowers his fists and raises an eyebrow, creating large rolls in his forehead. A girl did this? Yeah, I think so, Jonathan says. The note had hearts and kisses on it, somehow burned into the wall. Shoji smiles widely. Janu-san! He says. Janu-san is how Shoji pronounces Jonathan's name. Janu-san has new crazy girlfriend! Then he laughs loudly with his head stretched all the way back, patting Jonathan on the shoulder with such force that the young man nearly falls off his bar stool. I don't have a girlfriend, Jonathan says. I have no idea who did it. Shoji takes a quick swig of beer and leans in close. Janu-san, is going good to go for it? You know, go for it. Shoji winks at him. By the look in his eyes and the unsteadiness of his head as it bobbles on his wide neck, Jonathan can tell that Shoji is already incredibly drunk. Shoji is a heavy drinker, though, and Jonathan is very used to hanging around him when he's had way too many. I don't think so, Jonathan says, breaking eye contact. It's not what you think. Shoji says, Janu-san, when's the last time you've been with girl? Jonathan shrugs, staring at a row of bottles behind the bar. Shoji yanks on Jonathan's chin so that it faces him. A month? Shoji says, spitting into his face. 5 months! I've never been with a woman, Jonathan says. Never, Shoji says. I'm still a virgin, Jonathan says, whispering. Impossible, Shoji says. I've never had sex. Shoji points a finger at Jonathan. Didn't I set you up with my cousin last November? You had to have done sex with her. She does sex with everybody. Jonathan looks down. He doesn't like to remember that night. No, we were about to, but then she changed her mind once she saw me naked. Shoji rubs his chin and remembers. Oh yeah! She said you had something wrong with your penis. What was wrong with it again? My penis is all black, Jonathan says. Black? Jonathan points at a patch of black paint on the wall behind the bar. It's pitch black, like it's been painted. Your cousin thought it was some kind of strange STD and wouldn't go near it. Yeah, that's it, black penis! Shoji laughs out loud. Freak dicky! When he calms his laughing, he asks, Were you born with penis that way?
A penis burst problem?
No, Jonathan says. It only happened last July. I have no idea how it happened. I just woke up one morning and it was all black. The doctors don't know what it is. They've never seen anything like it before. They guess it's just a rare skin pigmentation problem. Shoji just laughs louder, his rolls of fat jiggling, knocking over his stack of cans across the bar.
You're a funny guy, Jonathan. Funny guy.
Jonathan looks around the bar to make sure nobody heard their conversation, but he notices 3 frat boys staring right at him with smirks on their faces. They surely heard everything. When Jonathan locks eyes with one of them, all 3 of the frat guys stand up and approach. Jonathan turns to Shoji, ignoring the frat boys as they walk to the bar. Shoji is busy restacking his beer cans into a pyramid. "Hey," he hears one of the frat guys say to him. Jonathan reluctantly turns to face him. "Aren't you Chuck Vandervoos' brother?" says one frat kid, the one covered in too many freckles and muscles to count. Chuck is Jonathan's younger, more respectable brother. He's an all-American college athlete and gun enthusiast, his father's pride and joy. While Jonathan doesn't recognize any of these kids, they seem to like just the kind of guys his younger brother would be friends with. "Yeah," Jonathan says.
"I told you it was him,"
the frat boy says to his friends. They give each other high fives and smile at Jonathan. Then they turn back to him. "Yeah, is it true?" Freckled frat boy asks. "Do you really live in a house made of Legos?" "Yeah," Jonathan says.
"No shit!"
the frat boy says. All 3 of them get excited. This in turn makes Jonathan excited. He loves meeting fans of his work, even though there are so few of them. They give each other another quick round of high fives. "I've always wanted to ask you something," says freckled frat boy. "What?" Jonathan asks. "I've always wanted to ask." The frat boy pauses to grin. Then he says, "Are you fucking retarded or what?" The other 2 frat boys burst into laughter and high-five each other. Freckled frat boy says, "I mean, you'd have to be retarded to actually want to live in that fucking ugly piece of shit building. Oh wait, that's right. Your brother said you had to live there because your parents kicked you out of their house for being an immature virgin who plays with Legos all day. How fucking old are you anyways?" Jonathan stares forward. He just plays along to get through this as quickly as possible. It's nothing new to him. 24, he replies.
"Then why don't you act like it?"
says freckled frat boy.
"Why don't you get a job and move into a real house like a normal person?"
"I like my house," Jonathan says. "I would rather live there than anywhere else in the world."
"That's not what your brother said. He said that you lived in that house because you were scared. You're scared of getting a job, scared of driving cars, scared of having any sort of responsibility whatsoever. It's pathetic."
Before Jonathan could respond, Shoji slams his fist onto the bar, exploding his freshly built pyramid of beer cans.
"Enough!"
Shoji yells. Then he stands up, his enormous belly knocking over his bar stool as he stumbles to face the frat boys.
"You don't understand what it means to have a dream,"
Shoji says to the frat boys with his booming, drunken voice.
"Janu-san lives better than any of you. Unlike you, he has no worries. He don't worry about getting into a shitty job on time or paying rent or getting kids to school."
The frat boys giggle at each other as the enormous drunken Asian man gives his slurred speech.
"Like me, Janu-san lives in ultimate happiness because he has only one path in life, and that is to pursue his passion. You'll one day wish you were as brave as my friend Janu-san."
Then freckled frat boy says, "Sit your fat ass down, King Hippo. I wasn't talking to you." As soon as the freckled frat boy says this, Jonathan knows what's going to happen next. He's seen it happen a dozen times before. Shoji's eyes bug angrily out of his head, and his chin raises high into the air.
You do not insult Yokozuna,
Shoji says, stumbling back and forth.
You will regret your words.
Get the fuck out of here, lard ass, says freckled frat boy, before we make bacon out of you. The frat boys turn to walk away, not interested in a fight.
Do you know who you insult?
Shoji yells across the bar at them, his words barely comprehensible.
I am #1 sumo champion in Japan!
Then Shoji pulls off his shirt to reveal his enormous breasts and belly. As he removes his shoes and pants, the bartender says, Shoji, I told you not to take your clothes off in here anymore.
My sumo power will teach you meaning of fear and respect,
Shoji says, now only in his white boxer briefs hanging halfway down his ass, as he stumbles into the center of the room, facing the frat boys. Freckled frat boy turns around. You know what, fat ass, he says. Let's go then. Muscle versus fat. Shoji squats down into the sumo starting position. He stomps his foot left, then stomps his foot right, then throws salt across the floor to appease the Shinto gods.
You fail to understand,
Shoji says.
Sumo wrestlers are just as much muscle as they are fat. We are powerful warriors and destroy everything in path.
Then Shoji roars at the top of his lungs and barrels forward. Oh shit! Freckled frat boy cries as he realizes there is a 500-pound wall of meat flying towards him. The freckled kid dives out of the way just in time, but Shoji keeps going. He sloppily plows forward, trips over his discarded shoes, and collapses, crushing a small table beneath him. The frat boys burst into laughter at the drunken sumo wrestler, and they run out of the bar, high-fiving each other. When Jonathan checks to see if his friend is all right, he hears snoring coming from the wreckage. Shoji has fallen asleep. The reason Shoji has never gotten anywhere in his sumo career is for one reason and one reason only. He sucks at sumo when he's drunk. And he's always drunk. On his walk home, Jonathan can't get the words the frat boy said to him out of his head. The words his brother had told him about how he lives the way he does because he's afraid of responsibility. The thing is, his brother is right. Jonathan is afraid of responsibility. He's created his life around getting out of responsibility. He lived with his parents for so many years because he didn't want to have to take care of himself. He dropped out of school because he knew that after graduating he would have to take that first step into the real world. But Jonathan is scared of the real world. He feels safer living in a world of fantasy, one that he builds for himself, one colorful Lego block at a time, where he never has to face the challenges that normal people have to face. I need to see you, Priscilla, he says, picking up the pace to get home as soon as possible. Only your face will remove these ugly thoughts from my head. Because he has always had problems getting a girlfriend, and was so lonely living all by himself in his house, Jonathan decided to build himself a girlfriend out of Legos. Priscilla is Jonathan's prized Lego creation. He keeps her in a secret upstairs room, hidden away from the public. She is too precious to share with anyone else. When he gets home, he rushes upstairs, turning on flashlights that hang from the ceiling like light bulbs as he does. He gets to the top floor and goes to a bright green Lego wall with a rose pattern in the tiles. As he pushes the center of the rose, the wall opens up, a battery-powered light fills the secret chamber. Just a brief moment of gazing into Priscilla's yellow Lego face, and all of Jonathan's worries completely vanish. "I've missed you so much," Jonathan says, stepping into the room with her. His Lego girlfriend has long red hair that flows down her shoulders, beautiful blue eyes that he can gaze into for hours on end, and perky breasts that just drive Jonathan wild. She's currently wearing a blue evening gown with matching blue earrings. Jonathan makes her a new outfit every other week, but this particular dress he's made is particularly enchanting. With alcohol in his blood enlivening his senses, he turns on his iPod to a romantic violin concerto. "Shall we dance?" Jonathan says to Priscilla. Then he wraps his arms around her in an embrace and they dance together. Jonathan carefully lifts her feet from the floor and attaches them to Legos on another side of the floor, then pulls her out of those Legos and attaches them to another section of Lego. But for some reason, their dancing feels more mechanical than it has in the past. Less magical. And for a moment, just a moment, Jonathan doesn't see her as a woman. He just sees her as a pile of Lego pieces in human form. A plastic, blocky, poor excuse for a female figure. He quickly shakes the thought and kisses her bumpy red lips. But when he pulls away, he sees a look of sadness in her deep blue eyes, as if she heard his cruel thoughts. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean it." Then he wipes tears from her cheek. He doesn't realize that the tears are falling from his own eyes. Alright guys, thanks for listening. That was chapter 2 of I Knocked Up Satan's Daughter. I'm sorry, I know I started a little bit too much during this chapter, but I'll try better next time. Thank you for listening, like and subscribe, and hit the damn bell. See you guys next time.